Okay, hello and welcome. This is Ling from slideberry.com and businesssoulwork.com. And today I have Robin here with me from Full Potential Living. She's awesome. She's a thyroid expert, and she's also teaching health coaches on how to work with clients to identify thyroid issues and, guide the clients through the thyroid issue. So I'm going to kick it to you, Robin, to give yourself a better introduction, and then we'll dive in to talk about, everything about what health coaches need to know about thyroid so that they can better serve the clients.
Great. Okay, that sounds great. Yeah, my name is Robin Arrett. I always say the last name because a lot of people see it in text and don't always know how to say it, but it rhymes with the vegetable. It's the easiest way to remember. Yeah, and I'm a health coach. I'm also a certified herbalist. I've been working in holistic health. I guess I started in the 90s. I didn't take it full time until later, but it's been a big part of my life for maybe the majority of my life now. And yeah, I also do train health coaches in working with thyroid issues. And that's something that I've been doing for a few years. It's been amazing experience. I love it. Before I went full time in my health coaching business, I was actually a learning expert, an instructional specialist and trainer, and I would develop education programs. So this came really naturally to me, and I love teaching coaches because they can get out there and change a lot more lives than just one person can. So yeah, that's kind of in a nutshell. What I do with Potential Living is about, we don't just do thyroid. Thyroid and adrenal is sort of an area of expertise, but living with chronic illness, transforming the experience of chronic conditions, because I think sometimes, and as somebody who myself had a 5-year pretty severe illness, I can really relate to, what life is like when that can kind of creep in and start to become your identity. So I work with people to help move them back to knowing who they are and living who they are aside from the illness.
Yeah, and this is awesome. I think thyroid is definitely something that is kind of overlooked. I have worked with thyroid issues myself, and oh my God, I wish I had known you earlier, because it is kind of a long journey to really figure out what's wrong, especially when you're a subclinical condition. And, the doctors say you're okay, but unless you look at all the numbers, like a full panel, and really know like what to look for, it is very hard to, it's very hard to identify by the sort of the more conventional medical professional, and you're just wondering what the hell is wrong with me without really getting to the root cause of it. I know thyroid is the root cause of a lot of hormonal issues. My own journey to getting pregnant was related to thyroid, and it took up a good portion of a good amount of time to figure it out and to, get my, get everything back on track so that the body is, it's back in balance, and it, just feel right in a nutshell. Like, you don't know what's wrong. It's just something is off. So I think it's a very great thing for you to bring to the table. And I think definitely a lot more, not just health coaches, but health and wellness professionals need to be aware of that. So, and that's why I'm so excited to have you here to talk about this. So let's dive in. Can you share with us, Robin, why this is so important for health coaches and other practitioners to really get to know about thyroid and thyroid issues?
Absolutely. So, you kind of encapsulated it with your own experience, Ling, but there are so many people, we're in a conversation right now talking about thyroid, right? But when you're in real life and you don't feel right and things feel off and you go to the doctor for answers and they do very minimal testing, which for decades was the norm, and to the credit of the sort of established medical practices, that was the extent of the tests we had for a while. But now, decades later, we've had some good testing for a while now. It hasn't really been used enough. But what happens is people go to get a checkup, or they say, I don't feel right, I'm exhausted, I'm gaining weight, whatever it is. And they do this minimal testing. It looks quote unquote normal and falls off the radar. So we're still here, you and I, talking about thyroid, but for everybody else and many other people, it's like, okay, well, it's not that. And they're on to the next thing, the next possible diagnosis, the next treatment, or very often getting sent out the door saying it's in your head, or maybe you're depressed and need antidepressants, or, you know, and that's not, I want to make clear, that's not to say real depression and a need for antidepressants doesn't exist. But this happens a lot. I mean, I literally have had clients walk out of doctor's offices in tears and tell me that the answers, when they're exhibiting 10 symptoms, common symptoms of hypothyroidism, because one number doesn't come up, you know, out of range, they're literally being told by the doctors, go home and have a glass of wine and relax. You know, you're probably just stressed out, or, you know, of course you're tired, you have kids, or, you know, of course you're gaining weight, you know, you're busy and you're probably not working out the way you used to. I mean, it's things like that where it gets blown off. Health coaches, and I do want to say this, I owe my life to good doctors, and there are a lot of great doctors out there, and there are doctors out there who are hungry to know more than they've been taught, to be able to better identify and help people. But sadly, all too often, those aren't always the doctors who people find. And so what's so beautiful about our role as coaches is that we can really help our clients to identify root causes. We can't diagnose, but we can be familiar with what to look for. We can know the signs and help guide our clients to a couple of things. One, better medical care. So we know that the medical side is being taken care of by someone really in the know. But also everything else that isn't being covered by the doctors. You know, I love your Wonder Woman mug, by the way. But isn't being covered by the doctors. Nice. You know, because there's so much else that we can do aside from, you know, if somebody chooses to go on supplemental hormones or medication, there's so much more that can be done, should be done, that's non-medical, that we as health coaches can help people with, and we can absolutely change lives. And I'll say this, when people feel off, when people feel tired, when they want to lose some weight and they're seeing, you know, this diet and that detox, and my friend went to a health coach and maybe that will help me, you know, who do they go to when they don't find answers at the doctor? They come to us, you know, so we need to know, and this is so rampant. I mean, it's estimated that 1 in 7, and now some newer statistics are showing it's possibly up to 1 in 5 women may have an underlying thyroid imbalance. So who comes to health coaches? Not people who are feeling great, not people who are at the top of their game. So for us, it could be even more than that proportionately. So really have to know what to look for so we can help guide them out. Yeah,
and I think the guidance is just as important, because I think a lot of people do put, you know, medical professional on the pedestal, and they go in and they don't ask the right questions. So I think as health coaches, one of our role is to help them empower our clients to say, hey, if you go to the doctor, if you run the panel, you ask such and such questions, so that they know what to look for and request for tests that can help uncover or identify if this is the issue. Because if you just go about trying to, you know, go on some diet to lose weight, exercise more, it is just sort of like you're working on the symptoms, but not exactly the root cause. And if you can identify the root cause, so many things it would just unravel, and it just like, bam, like it's like the fog has lifted and you don't even know what happened.
Yeah, it's true. And that's a big part of what I do with my own clients and what I teach other health coaches is how do we teach our clients how to be really empowered patients. We don't just want to just be empowered people and clients and moms and, you know, wives and single women and Wonder Women and all of that, and learn how to make the right decisions for themselves. But we really need to own our medical care. You know, the days are kind of over where we walk into the medical office and just assume they have the answer. There's so much to know. And we're also doing research at a rate faster than ever. We can learn a lot ourselves, and we're knowing more and more that the answer does not just lie there, but it is a piece. A way that I explain it often is if you imagine taking care of your thyroid, but also of your life, as a pie chart, and one slice of that is medical. One slice of that is medical. That might be an important piece for you or for other individuals. We need to master that piece too. How do we develop a good relationship with the doctor? How do we find the right doctor who understands this stuff so we don't have to walk out in tears and we can feel supported? But that's only one slice. So we want, as coaches, we can help people to really take control of all the aspects of their self-care and of their wellness. And that is one piece. And you're absolutely right. Knowing what tests to ask for, sometimes knowing how to ask, we don't want to step on toes. We don't want to be bossy. We want to become partners with our healthcare professionals. And there are good ways to do that. And then there's the piece of knowing how to interpret the results. So one tip, I always tell people to get a copy of your labs. Never stand for, oh, I got the call from the office and they said everything was normal. That's great. In normal, are we talking about get a copy yourself? Everyone should always have their own lab, know what's happening.
Yeah, that's a great tip, because I think like I mentioned, when I was working through my own thyroid challenges, it was subclinical. So if I just depended on a phone call that says you're normal, yeah, sure. But it is subclinical that it's just like, margin, like just at the low end, and it could just throw things off. Definitely. Yeah. So another I think common questions that health coaches would ask when it comes to working with clients on their thyroid issue is it too sort of quote unquote medical for them to get into?
That's a great question and a common one. Health coaches are right to be concerned about overstepping their role. They're right in wondering about that. First of all, the laws are different in every state. I think some of us may follow on nutritionaladvocacy.org, where we can see if we're in a red state or yellow state or green state. So we do have to be very careful. We also need to be realistic. What is our training and what isn't our training? And I think that some of the pressure that health coaches feel sometimes is that they have to know everything, or they can only take on a client that they know how to fix. And it's really not our role. Our role is to be a knowledgeable guide. And we may have some great strategies that can help them with their challenges, but we're never diagnosing. And even the thyroid coaches that I've trained, and it's over 200 of them now in 11 countries, and are off doing this work for the most part. Some take my courses for their own thyroid health and then end up helping others. But there's such a relief, because we work with really embracing our role as a health coach, and we never have to step into, nor should we step into, the world of where doctors should be treading, So it's not too medical, because what we can do is help our clients align with the right medical piece and get that set up so that we can then relax into our role as a coach, knowing that we're still supporting them. How is it going with what's going on with the doctor? How are you feeling? What questions might you want to ask on your next appointment? So we guide them that way and sort of overhear the medical piece. And then there's, as I said, the whole rest of that pie chart of the proper nutrition, the self-care, the ways to eat, ways to exercise or not exercise, or a lot of things that might be recommended for general wellness or getting back into shape that would not be recommended for thyroid. So there's so much we can do that's absolutely within our realm without ever having to overstep our role.
Yeah, that's great. I think having the information really empower health coaches to become an advocate for their clients to get the right medical attention. And also, like you said, it is the nutrition side. And there's a lot of these things that, within a 15-minute clean in a 15-minute doctor's office visit, the doctor just won't know or won't tell you, like, what to avoid, that that may look healthy from the sort of like, oh, this is health food. But I think soy is one of those that if you eat too much, is can impact the thyroid if you have thyroid issues. Like weird little things like lemon balm. I think lemon balm tea can actually sort of have an impact on thyroid if you have hypothyroid, if I recall correctly. Like all these little things that really needs to have know the client and have a conversation with the client to know. And that's right. I swear, yeah. And I haven't heard a doctor telling me like not to use fluoride toothpaste.
Right. I mean, how many of us have ever had a doctor tell us to throw out our Teflon pants?
Yeah, right.
And and that's not, again, that's not to bash doctors. It's just that we as health coaches are in this world. We're learning them, exposed to this all day, every day. Where are the toxins coming from? How is this affecting, our gut, which then affects everything else? We're learning about epigenetics and the behavior of genes, and that the behavior of genes can actually be influenced by outside sources. I mean, this is the stuff that we just soak up. And what is it? It's like there's 15 minutes or so of nutritional training, I think, on average for a lot of medical programs. So it's really great to know, that for the client that they've got a trusted doctor to handle the medical side. They've got a trusted coach. I always say you need to hire your team. You can hire your team and fire your team. Your doctor doesn't have to be your doctor. Even if you have a HMO or whatever, you can change doctors or save up and pay out of pocket. I mean, look, I had to pay when I was sick, and I paid, I think, $1,300 for the testing that everyone was telling me all along I should be getting. And you don't need to do that for thyroid, by the way. This was other stuff, out of pocket. And it was the best money I ever spent, because I finally found out what was going on and I could take steps. So we can always pay out of pocket if we have to, but you're right. There's so much that we can do. And here's the other thing. When sometimes even the best meaning doctors will give advice that if thyroid is off the radar, is actually not what we should be doing. So if the average person goes in and says, look, I'm really fatigued, I'm gaining weight, I know this isn't normal, I've actually been dieting, or I'm working out and I'm still not losing, very often even the best meaning doctors will say, just cut back on calories a little bit more, or bump up the exercise and do a little more intensity and see if that makes sense. And those would be right instructions if there weren't a thyroid issue, So if there is a thyroid issue, amping up the intensity could actually put further strain on the adrenals, which will further throw off the thyroid. So we need to know, and we can help our clients uncover, and it becomes an absolute game changer for their lives.
Yeah, and I like what you just mentioned, because that's like conventional wisdom, but and I experienced the same thing. When I was going through my own thyroid issues, I was cycling a lot, and basically my body got really depleted, and it's just like sluggish. And the conventional wisdom, oh, go out, get some air, go exercise, is not the solution. The solution is rest up, get your body back in balance. And how, and it is like, okay, if you're trying to lose weight, a doctor's not going to tell you go rest up. It's like, go exercise more and get yourself more depleted, right? So that's actually a very interesting way to really have a second opinion or a different perspective on what could, what could be wrong. And speaking of what could be wrong, can you tell us what health coaches can look out for, in what kind of symptoms to look out for to spot potential issues related to thyroid?
Yeah, we can talk about the most common ones. I mean, there's a list of like 90 or something, that it doesn't mean if you have any one of the 90, you automatically have a thyroid issue. I do want to say that. That's one thing that I work with a lot with coaches, is to understand the body as a whole system. And having one sign or having one indicator or one risk factor doesn't mean it's automatically that. We don't want to fall into the hammer and nail thing, where if the tool you have in your hand is a hammer, everything's a nail.
Yeah.
then we're just like the system we're trying to change, right? So, but being aware of it allows us to pick up on it and help our clients discover it when they need to. But yeah, let's talk about that. So there are, just to kind of back up to the basics, there are two primary diagnoses. There's hypothyroidism and hyperthyroidism. There's also some autoimmune, which I can talk about in a second. But just to break it down, hypo is technically meaning not enough or too slow. Hyper meaning too much thyroid hormone circulating, or too fast. The problem is that sometimes we then categorize the symptoms, like automatically, if it's too slow, you're going to be tired and overweight. And if it's too fast, you're going to be amped and underweight. And it's never that clean cut, right? There are always other factors. So we want to be very careful about overgeneralizing. But I will say that hypothyroidism, things that interfere with optimal amounts of thyroid hormone being created from the thyroid and then circulating through the body, is much more common than hyper. And the very common symptoms of that are, in fact, fatigue. You'll see people, this is an interesting one, but you'll often see people will lose the outer third of their eyebrows. So they'll lose the hair there. Their skin can become very dry. They will often have a low body temperature. And I want to talk about body temperature because this is something all health coaches, I think, should know. Sometimes people will take their temperature, or the client will say, well, I have low body temperature, or it's not that low. It's like 97.3. So it's not that much lower than normal. Well, let's do the math for a second. This is pretty amazing. So 97.3 up to 98.6 is what? 1.3 degrees difference. Out on a sunny day, that doesn't make a difference, right? If it's 1.3 degrees difference. But if you're 98.6 and you're elevated 1.3 degrees, that's 99.9. You have a fever and you feel pretty happy. 1.1 in the body is significant. That's a significant deviation. So that's a really easy way to just help a client begin to, I always say, like, turn the stones over, start to pick up on clues. Let's start monitoring your body temperature. You know, what is it in the morning before you move around? What is it during the day? If you're low, and in the low 97s would be considered low, that's a very common sign of hypothyroidism. Not losing weight, even when you make changes to your diet or exercise. Profound fatigue. Sometimes you'll get muscle aches. Depression and anxiety is very common. In fact, I see time and time again people correcting depression, or, you know, pulling out of it once they get their thyroid levels optimized. I wish, there are people who have depression who have perfect thyroid levels, but I wish that it were just the norm for every woman postpartum, every human being who reports depression, to automatically get a full thyroid panel done. Because wouldn't it be great to have an option of bringing the body back into balance instead of just trying to chase the symptoms and just provide relief, which may or may not work for somebody who's suffering. Those are
Yeah, absolutely. My husband could tell right now, you know, something happened, and I actually been weaning myself off my medication, you know, using other means. But a few years ago, my husband could totally tell when I am not getting the right dosage for my thyroid medicine.
Our loved ones usually know a lot more than we do sometimes.
Are you doing something weird with your medication dosage because you don't look right?
Stand too close when they suggest that, you know.
Yeah.
And it's funny, you know, not funny, but, you know, Ling, you mentioned about your pregnancy and the history of finally being able to become pregnant. This is another common thing. So thyroid, there's a thyroid hormone receptor on every cell of our bodies, in every cell. And so it really serves as this, you know, high level regulator of pretty much every system in our body. So the big three, kind of the holy trinity, if you will, of hormones, the adrenal hormones, the reproductive hormones, and the thyroid hormones, are all interconnected.
Yep.
So it is very common when the thyroid is off that the reproductive hormones are also off. And I have had clients who've had repeated miscarriages, other menstrual irregularities, and problems. And when this was discovered and they got it regulated, they were able to then successfully have a full-term pregnancy. So that's always a really happy outcome.
Yeah, that's another thing to look for is the absolute like the hormonal balance, and also an interest. And one more thing I want to point out is when I had my thyroid challenges, I was also borderline underweight just because of my exercise routine and just like some kind of imbalance. I'm just not holding the weight. So it's also a sign of depletion that that is real. That's just all connected.
It's true. When
and it goes back,
weight, like, oh, you don't have low thyroid. If you did, you'd be overweight. Like that happened to me when I had my illness. It took out my thyroid function, and eventually I gained a lot of weight. But at the time that things were really funky, I was like, I know something's up with the thyroid. And this was pre-internet where we could find everything. And I was going and reading medical journals and medical studies and like, please test, a full panel. I want this test and that test. And they're like, it's not that. And it certainly, yeah. So, and you being underweight was probably another contributor to you flying under the radar of the traditional testing, which is not.
Yeah, so just go back to the point that you had earlier is that, symptoms to look for, but definitely not one size fits all. So it's definitely, you need to be trained, and you need to be sort of know all the different aspects of it to be able to say, hey, this could be the issue, rather than using one or two sort of indicator that you can find via Google and, make a hasty judgment.
Yeah, it's true. That's why, I'm split, because when I started on the thyroid research train 20 years ago, there was maybe one other person publicly, and she's still very active in the community, who was researching thyroid stuff and vocal about it. She's not a medical person, but she's an activist. And a couple of doctors were doing this research primarily on free T3, which is the active form of thyroid hormone, which very commonly is never tested unless we ask. So I'm pulling all this information together, and I'm like, I know something's up. And, unless we're able to ask for it, and unless we're able to say, look, this is the situation, this is how I'm feeling, it's pointing this way. Imagine what health coaches can do when that happens. And we can say, look, looking like this may be something you want to check out with a medical professional, and how to talk to them about it in a way that doesn't freak them out or create fear. That's another piece that is important. Knowing what's going on means getting answers. It means having a plan. And it means being able to take steps that will finally make a difference. And so we want to be able to share these possibilities, not as a diagnosis, but guide them towards getting diagnosed by a medical professional, in a way that doesn't freak them out. And to come back to what you were saying is that sometimes when people just self-diagnose or try to do it on their own, now that there's so much information on the internet, it's like, on the one hand, I'm thrilled about it. I'm so glad. The thyroid story, as I used to call it. I mean, I keep going like, nobody's being tested, and they're all being told they're normal, and they're not even looking at free T3, and they're not looking at antibodies, and blah, 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 right? So, now people know, which is great, but not pulled down into treatment yet. And so people see these one-size-fits-all suggestions that also may not be accurate. Just as you're saying, one thing may be right for someone and not for someone else. One person may be having one set of symptoms and not another. And so with the internet comes a lot of gifts and a lot of empowerment and progress, but it also can bring a lot of confusion, both for coaches and for clients, of what's actually the right thing to do. There's so many mixed messages. Yeah,
definitely. So, we really know that as health coaches, we can make a difference. What are some of the strategies that they can use to really bring, get the message out and also empower their clients and do their part and help the clients, such as, for example, what can they do when the clients come back to them and say, hey, I'm getting, oh my God, I'm having challenges with thyroid, like I get diagnosed or something, right? Of course, they can take medication and all that, but sorry, I'm turning off my phone. And also, as health coaches, what can we do? Like, I know there's like, of course, a slew of things because you have a whole training on that. But give us a few simple things that health coaches can actually, start their clients out on the path of healing and balance.
Love it. Okay. First and foremost, and it seems obvious, more people don't know than know. Okay. So there are more and more people learning what to ask for and getting diagnosed and not going on coach saying, I have this problem. I'd like you to help me solve it or whatever, I'd like you to coach me. And then of course the health coach would need to be someone thyroid educated and thyroid ready. And I'll talk about some things that those coaches can do. But more often than not, the client has no idea. They come to the coach saying, I'm exhausted. I don't feel like myself anymore. We hear that a lot. I don't feel like the me that I used to know. I'm just so sluggish and, all these common things. So the first thing we don't want to do is sort of suggest a boxed answer like, okay, I'm going to put you on a fitness program and a green smoothie detox. And if we don't know what exactly we're working with. The way the health coaches can help the most is to help the client who doesn't know find out or rule it out, right? So rule helps too. If you know as a coach what to look for and what to test for and how to get those tests from the doctors or whatever, there are ways that we can help clients order the test themselves as well. And then you discover, well, it's not that, then great. It opens up a whole world of things, other things you can do and feel comfortable about. So number one is help the client to discover what's really going on at the root. Number two is present it in such a way where this is not a fear thing. It's not like, oh, you have a disease. That's why I call it thyroid imbalance. It's an imbalance of levels in the body. And there are a lot of ways we can work with people to bring that back into balance. Some may require supplemental hormones by prescription. Many may not. So it's all a balance issue. I mean, our bodies are like these amazing miracles of balance.
Yeah.
And, there's that. But present it in a way where this isn't a scary thing. We're guiding them as an empowered person who's finally on the track to getting answers. And that's really what clients want when they come to us, is they just want to know what's going to work for them and finally feel better and get some answers. So be their partner. Guide them in a way where no matter what we find out, like, I'm going to help you, client, discover if this is what's going on. If it is, it's actually good news, right? It's actually good news because now we know why you've been struggling for so long and haven't been able to get progress. And now that if we discover that that's what's going on without diagnosing, we can help them begin to make progress. So we don't want to scare them. The other thing is to kind of know the more common myths and help to calm those. It's something that I work with coaches is, we can say things and we don't always know what that is going to connect with for the client. So if you say, have you considered it may be thyroid? Have you had that looked at with your doctor? And they have a mom with thyroid disease, an aunt who had thyroid cancer, all the women in their family are obese and uncomfortable. And, that could bring up a lot of fear and concern. So I think, really making clear that it's not a death sentence. It's not that this is something that when you know about it and when you address it holistically can be a tool that completely changes your life. I feel better now than I felt years ago, even before my illness, because I've been able to take this chronic condition and use it as a gauge for self-care and as a gauge for when am I getting off of balance, when am I not feeling good, and so we can do this work and turn it into a gift with our clients without minimizing it. Finally, I would really caution health coaches against using the traditional, diet and super exercise approach. If you suspect that this is going on, some of your clients may already be doing that, right? It's like, I couldn't lose the weight, so I joined CrossFit, because that is amazing for weight loss, I heard. This is just an example. And that and CrossFit is great for people who can do CrossFit. If you're in a thyroid or adrenal compromised state, it can put you over the edge and put you into an crash. So you don't want to always suggest the more intense stuff. Go gentle, be loving with the body, and help your client be loving with the body. And that actually will result in the weight loss and the energy. But it's a totally different approach.
And definitely, I like when you mention, like, don't just, get people into a boxed solution, right? And I think especially those green smoothie detox, I mean, they're great, but I know that too much raw greens can have an impact on thyroid health and especially, I knew that when I was dealing with hypo, too much, I don't remember the sort of like the mechanism behind it, but I know that it can actually get you more off when you have too much raw greens. And it's
a controversial topic, but the discussion is basically cruciferous vegetables. So that kale, spinach, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, things like that. They can serve in excess, and when they are raw, can serve as goitrogens. Goitrogen means that it actually will block the uptake of iodine by your thyroid. Your thyroid must have iodine to work. And so it can block that. However, the places where people land on that are all over the map. Having some raw cruciferous a little bit each day is not going to really cause a problem, and they are incredible nutritional and anti-cancer powerhouses. If you cook them, it breaks down that goitrogenic property, so that's fine. What I do caution against, though, is going heavy, raw, cruciferous 3 meals a day. So a lot of people on detox, they're doing kale smoothies every single day, 3 times a day, or kale in the morning and then spinach. And, so that is something I would recommend against. Also, somebody's trying to kind of get things back into balance, and they're doing the targeted supplements, or they've started on perhaps a natural hormone supplementation. I would temporarily go off of that just to give the thyroid an opportunity, totally unencumbered, to work with what you're giving it in the body, without any interference. So you're right. I mean, these are things that if we didn't know, we'd be like, green smoothie detox, you need it, and some people do great with them. But one recommendation I come up with is lettuce. Do the smoothies, do the vegetables, use lettuce, use romaine, use arugula, use celery, and cucumber. I mean, these are green, they have chlorophyll, they're great for you, and they're not cruciferous. It's a great alternative.
Yeah. And I think these are the nuances that, we can really learn from experts like yourself. It's not one size fits all, and there's like nuances to how all these pieces come together. So tell us, Robin, how can, if health coaches on the line or watching the replay dig it and they want to learn more, what do you have for them?
Yeah, so I, from time to time, I don't offer it all the time, but from time to time I offer some trainings. Some of them are free, sort of basic level training, and I'm actually offering one of those on Monday. It's called Thyroid Basics, what all health coaches need to know. And I always say all health coaches, because whether or not you're a health coach who wants to specialize in thyroid or specialize in hormone balance, if a coach is working with detox, fatigue, menstrual irregularities, women in general, moms, there's so many of these groups who the subpopulations, the rate of this happening under the radar could be very, very high. So that's on Monday, and that is totally free training. I don't like a pitch fest training, so I like to give solid information, specific strategies, things to look for, so that every attendee can walk away feeling like they learned something and they have tools they can use right away. So that's on Monday. And then later in March, we're starting Mastering Thyroid Imbalance for Health Coaches, which is my full training course. It's a 6-module, 6-week course. It's been taught to over 200 coaches so far in, I think, 11 countries. We have an amazing group on Facebook. They're so active and wonderful, and I love them. And I'm in there a lot. So I love community, and I feel like we work best as professionals and just as human beings when we stick together. You know, I don't believe in competition. People are like, why would you train other coaches to do what you do? It's like, there are millions of people out there who need this help. We need all coaches. If it were up to me, this would be part of all health coach training prep programs, right? So maybe at some point. But yeah, so when people do that, they have lifetime access to all of the material, to all of the updates. They always get the updated material because I update the course all the time. There's always new information. And they always have access to me and myself answering questions. So that starts in March, but definitely the free training is a great place to dive in and get more of this information for your coaching practice.
That's awesome. So this is what I'm going to do. I know I'm going to take this video and put it on many different places. So if you find this video on sliberry.com, right below the video is the link to get to the free training, to get to the course, just a link to get you where you need to go at, wherever you come across this video. If you find this one on, and if you find this on Blab, you can go right to sliberry.com/crack-the-thyroid-code, a dash between each word. And if you see it on YouTube, what I would probably do is to add the URL right at the bottom of this video, and also the link in the description area. Same thing on Facebook. Just put the link somewhere you can find it. So if you can find it, it is sliberry.com/crack-the-thyroid-code with a dash in between each word.
Each word there, yeah. Thanks for sharing that link, and I'm so glad just in case anybody's listening to this after the 22nd, I will make a recording of that training available. So you haven't missed it. If you're a health coach, you can log in, be there live, because I always do fun stuff live for people who are there. But it's never too late to get your feet wet with that introductory basics training.
Awesome. So never too late. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here, Robin. This is great conversation and great information.
Can I add one more little thing?
Yeah, please.
That I've noticed with coaches who learn this stuff is their confidence level shoots up. And when your confidence level shoots up, you get more business because you're not afraid to get yourself out there and be visible and bring in clients. I think sometimes here, we want the business. We want to grow our practice. We know we can coach. We know we have things to offer. But there might be like a little voice that's like, I don't know if I can help everyone. And we can't help everyone, and nobody can help everyone. But somebody may present with stuff that's a little too complex for me or a little too mysterious. When you have, that's why when we call it Crack the Thyroid Code, when you've got that insider info on a root issue that's at play in such a high proportion of people, it brings such a different level of confidence in your game and tools to your practice. You're more able to bring in those clients, help them successfully, and then you've got word of mouth and testimonials, and it's just it's great.
Great tool.
That's something I love, helping people, but I think that we also have to focus on our business, because if we're not in business, we're not out there helping people. So we really need to be able to do both successfully.
Exactly. Great point. And thank you for adding that. Well, thanks again. Happy Friday.
You too. Thanks so much for the opportunity to chat with you and all of you that are watching.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. Bye.
Bye.